Hello, everybody. Hope you're all doing fantastically well. It's Connor here. We are back with the latest edition of Deadline Day closing in. Hello all. How are we doing? How's it going? We're back here with the one of the last streams, pretty much. We're just making sure everybody's checked in and dandy and all this sort of stuff. So keep all your comments coming in. Hello, Dormston Cook. Do the full fork on. Can have a whip round on Uber Eats for your evening, Connor. Yeah, we're going to be doing a big one tonight, mate. Hello, everybody. Hello, one. Hello, all. How's it going? What's everybody thinking? Is everybody enjoying the window so far? My big question to all you guys is it good enough so far? Are you buzzing? Millsy, you're not missing anything, my friend. You're not missing anything. You have just joined, and let me read all your comments out in the section below as well. Lee McGuinness in the building. Evening, Connor and chat. Hello. You have just joined. Ooh, it sounds good, doesn't it? It sounds good. That's all good. But keep getting your comments in the section below, everybody. I'm just making sure everything's going all good before we start our big stream. We have Mr. Ian McGilligan on, everybody. Generation Leeds. Yes, Generation Leeds is back with another episode. On top of that, we're going to have a very influential TikToker account on the channel as well, who I'm really excited to come on the channel. I think that'll be a really good addition to the show. So make sure you slap a like on for this one. It looks like Oscar's going to be coming on at around about 7 o'clock as well. There's a little bit of a scupper on my eye here. I don't know what's happened. Don't know if my mum was just giving me a quick clip whilst I've been doing all the Leeds United news, but I don't think she has. But let me get into a few of your comments. Is Pervader confirmed? Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going around at this moment in time that Ian Pervader is going to be heading out of Leeds United, and it looks like we're going to be getting Connor Roberts the other way. Now, I guess the question is for a lot of Leeds fans is, do we think that is going to be a decent addition? Do we think that's going to be one of those additions where you think to yourself, Ian Pervader has not really worked at Leeds and it's a good move for him to leave the club? Yeah, I think so. I think so overall. I like Ian from the bench. I guess it's another attacking option, which is now off the cards, which is something else to take into consideration. But on the back of that as well, it's probably key to look at Connor Roberts and think to yourself that that's a half decent move, for Leeds United, but maybe it's not all that's what we thought at the start of the window, which is maybe a little bit cynical of myself. But hey up Connor, hi Callum. Roberts is a very good addition at this level. Roberts alone is not enough. The squad is strong enough, but Farke isn't. And without any further ado, I can see him in the background trying to figure out the technology. But we'll get the old man in on this as well to give his verdict on the window. Dad, how are you doing?
Yeah, all right, Connor. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. What have you been up to?
Oh, not a lot, son, to be honest. Just try to keep abreast with all this stuff that's going on. Not a lot, in all fairness.
Yeah. No, it's... I don't know. You sort of... Obviously, we know Connor Roberts is coming in. It looks like that's going to be done in terms of sort of acquisitions today, but I'm not sure much more is going to be done when it comes to Leeds. I think they were looking at a centre-back. They were looking at Chris Mepham. They were looking at Joe Worrall. They were looking at Paul Dummett. They've been looking at every centre-back under the sun who's got maybe a slight availability slant towards the Championship. But yeah, I'm not perturbed by it as such, but what are your thoughts overall? Are you happy with the addition?
Yeah, I mean, that's got to be a step in the right direction, Colin. We've been after a left fullback for God knows how long. We get a right fullback by the sounds of it, and I'm quite happy with that. I was really interested, to be honest with you, I was looking and listening to Farke's news conference yesterday, and for me, I've jotted down 3 main points on that. We can go into it now if you want, but this all has a slant on where we're going with the transfer window over the last month, and particularly tonight.
Oscar's in the building as well, Dad. I think it's yours and Oscar's formal introduction. Oscar, my dad. Dad, Oscar.
Hey, Oscar.
Hello, mate. Hey, nice to meet you.
Yeah, you've got a thicker beard than I have there.
So go on, Dad. You've got Mr. Leeds United YouTuber looking at you now. So you've got to go over your 3 points and see if they make sense. There's pressure on.
Yeah, a bit of pressure on here. No, it was really interesting when I was watching it yesterday, and for me, Farker said that he was happy with the squad. That was the first point that he mentioned, and another thing that he mentioned 2 or 3 times during that presser was the unity over improvement thing, and I thought that was really interesting. And he said that particularly on the running to the end of the season, that for him the dynamic seemed to be let's keep the squad unified, and it doesn't matter if we get somebody in. That person really needs to make the difference, and that was the third point, really. And I thought that was interesting, because we see what's happened recently with Jed Spence and with Cresswell coming back into the fold. That's obviously a really big thing with Fark, and that has a big slant, I think, on the way we're going with the transfer window. Whoever we get in has to make the difference for him. It doesn't matter whether the 49ers say you've got £20 million to pay with during this transfer window. For him, they've got to make the difference, and it's about keeping the squad together.
Yeah. Oscar, I think that's the big thing, isn't it? I think improving that starting 11 is something that he sort of reiterated really through the 4-week period, mate. I mean, yeah, are you aligned with that? Are you sort of thinking to yourself that it's one of those where you can't really sell the bench for Leeds? And I mean, you've spoken a little bit off air, but it's difficult for him, isn't it? And difficult for Leeds at this moment in time because you've got to improve that starting 11, and that starting 11 is pretty damn good when you look at profiles at the minute, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I totally agree. Anyone that comes in January, no matter who it is, doesn't matter if it's Leeds United, any team, non-league, Premier League, whoever it is, Championship, they've got to be there to bring in January to make an impact in the final 5 months of the season. That is what they brought in for in January. That's why you do a January signing rather than the summer deal. So absolutely crucial that they're there to make an impact. I think obviously in an ideal world, you look at our depth and say that's something we can improve a little bit. I think the starting 11, I don't think anyone can question that starting 11 is top quality, if we're being honest. When we've got everyone fit and available, it's a big when, we've got everyone fit and available, it's a fantastic team. It's a team that could compete at the higher level potentially. But when you look at depth wise, that is a concern. But when you're trying to bring in players who know, players aren't stupid. Footballers aren't stupid. They when they sign for a club, they've got a good idea. Are they going to be straight in the team? Are they going to have to really work to win the place in the team? Or are they just going to sign to just be depth? Realistically, footballers can see what we see, if not a lot more than what we can see. So, if we're questioning, say people like, say, Manuel Benson, for example, he looks at that. I don't think Daniel Farker, say if we did bring in Benson, I don't think Farker was ever going to drop Dan James, just in terms of what Dan James brings this Leeds team. I'm not saying he's right to do that or wrong to do that. I just don't see how anyone comes in and takes Dan James out of the team. Wilfred Nanto hasn't done it. Jayden Anthony hasn't done it. Similar with Crescencio Somerville as well. So when you're seeing that, as a potential player coming in, you're not going to do it. You're not going to sign from Burnley's bench to go and sit on Leeds' bench. It doesn't make any sense to do that. So it's difficult. There's no question about it. It's difficult to do transfers in the position we're in. I think the other teams are sort of facing that as well. Southampton, I think they've had a couple of failed home bids. Yes, they have got a few through the door. But yeah, it's one of those. It is a bit frustrating. Maybe haven't added to the depth, but I can see why we haven't. And I still don't think this Leeds team will miss out because of quality. Unless we get big injuries to Rutter or Rodon or Somerville, I don't think the quality is the issue. I just think it's in terms of, have we been able to bring anyone in who can make a straight impact in the team? Other than Connor Roberts, I think Connor Roberts you look at I think the reason you look at Connor Roberts is the fact that Archie Gray currently is playing out of position. I think Archie Gray's been fine at right back. There's even talk of, will Roberts take Archie Gray out of the team? That is up for debate, that a little bit. It's debatable whether, Daniel Farker would make that change straight away. But, at least with Connor Roberts, for me, I can look at him and say, yes, he can go into that team at right back and he's better than our other natural right back options in the team. So, yeah, it's a weird one, really, January for us, but I think it's been a pretty standard one, to be honest, in terms of what most Championship teams are doing. We'll see. I rambled a little bit there, but yeah, it's just
it's not like you.
This transfer window, though, it's just been so many different kind of like links in that lot, and none of them have really gone anywhere. Really, none have progressed really beyond interest, have they? If we're being honest, and it's one of them. It's a little bit of an agent talk as well. I always felt with Benson, that felt to me a little bit like the agents doing more than what the clubs were, if you know what I mean. I think maybe the agents trying to put a little bit of pressure on Burnley or other teams around them. It just never seemed realistic to me, that Benson one. And I think we mentioned that a few weeks ago. But yeah, it's just a typical January transfer window. This time we haven't been able to get a John Kevin Augustin through the door. We can't always have successful windows as that one. Yeah. So, you got to accept it. A Kiko Casilla or Augustin window, you can't always have that kind of joy.
Yeah, I think.
I think it's.
Sorry, go on.
No, go on, Dad. Go on.
No, I just think it's sometimes we forget as well, don't we, that it's always from the Leeds perspective, this, and it's they very much the player that's coming in to Leeds United has got something on his agenda, or he wouldn't be coming either. So it's got to work out for that player just as much as it's got to work out for us as well. They don't want to be just like you said, Oscar, moments ago. They don't want to be sat on the bench at their own club and then moving out to potentially a lower league club, like Leeds, for example, and also sitting on the bench, it's got to work for everybody, and sometimes I think we lose sight of the fact that it's just as important for the player coming in as it is for us as a club.
Absolutely. Otherwise, you end up with, another thing as well is, the Weston McKennie situation. We sort of signed Weston McKennie, and listen, Weston McKennie was nowhere near what a Leeds United player should be, in my point of view. Others will have different views on that, but he just never quite seems right in terms of what we needed. And we kind of signed him. It was like, okay, I'm not too sure we're going to play him here, because obviously we've got Mark Rocker, Tyler Adams, etc., etc. And it felt like in the past we haven't really had a plan. At least with Colin Roberts, I can see what the plan is there. To provide the depth at right back, and even at centre back, I think Roberts, has got the build to play there, and I think he has played a few games there for Burnley, I believe. I think he's played a few games at centre back, so it's an option. And I think even like the Harry Souttar one as well, from earlier on today, I never really felt that one was happening because of Leicester. No reason for Leicester to strengthen a rival. So there's always hidden agendas, not just between the players, between the clubs, between the agents, and that's something we're full and foul to. With Augustin, Weston McKennie, Kiko Casilla, the list is endless, unfortunately.
And it's a weird one, isn't it? When you look at this transfer window this year and you compare it to the transfer window last year, I think it was exactly a year ago that we signed Weston McKennie, wasn't it? And a lot of us as fans probably look back at that window a year ago and thought it was a successful one. And it's actually going to put us in good stead for what was going to happen for the rest of the season. Unfortunately, it didn't. And this seems to be the opposite of the way things are going. So let's hope this works for us.
That's the other thing as well. I mean, GP Rutter signed in January, and ideally, listen, I think no one can complain. Rutter overall has been a very successful signing, but in terms of what we needed in January, it didn't really work. From January to, I do more blame that on Marsh and Javi Gracia, to be honest, in terms of how they managed him. But the most important thing with January transfer is not so much the long-term element of it; it's what the player does in between January and May. Can they elevate you? I mean, we're seeing. Remember Villa a few years back when they signed, I know it's going to sound like a weird one, but when they signed Tyrone Mings a few years back and they got themselves out of this league, listen, Tyrone Mings, I don't think is a good footballer, but sometimes it's just that sign and that character coming into your dressing room, and it just kind of lift the place a little
spark,
bit.
Isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And I always remember Connor's reaction to that one, where Connor was saying, "Oh, Villa are going up now," and I thought, "What? And to be fair, Connor was very much spot on that one.
Yeah.
I need to start doing that, mate. I need to start going through when I was right. And actually, I don't do it enough. Just get called out when I was wrong. But yeah, it's an interesting one. Regarding Leeds this window. I don't know if I'm like sort of overjoyed. I'm definitely not with what we've done in the window. It has to be said, but I guess like Oscar's said, and like you've said, Dad, it's really difficult to improve a side where every player in this side at this moment in time is sorted. Really, you are filling a bench out, and that's why I don't think there's many reactionary takes at the minute, because you can't be reactionary about it. Everything's filled, isn't it?
It is, and it's really weird where we are right now compared to 12 months ago. 12 months we were fighting for survival, and we all knew it, and we had a really good window. This time round, it's probably, I don't know what you think, Oscar, Connor, but it's probably more important, isn't it? I really feel that we've got to get up this time round. If we don't get up this year, we'll leave it for another year. It just gets harder and harder. And yet this has been our most successful year. Farker said it himself, didn't it? The press conference, he said the most successful season we've ever had in our history at this level, at this point in time. And here we are, bizarrely stuck in 4th place. You know, we're just really unlucky at this moment in time that we've got 3 other clubs, 3 other teams performing extraordinarily well, you know, and we're doing so well, and yet we're 4th. So it's odd, you know, we're you know, this window compared to last window, it's very different, equally as important. But, you know, from Farker's point of view, he's thinking, you know, I've got a right squad here, you know, and maybe, yeah, we just need the odd injection here and there. But, you know, for me, I don't know, it's as good as it can be almost. Yeah, you know, get a few injuries here and there, we're struggling. But, you know, we're almost where we need to be. Remaining positive.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It's just been a weird season all around. I think it's been creeping up on us all season. You know, the fact that, you know, Ipswich and Leicester having these just ridiculous seasons. Now Southampton as well. You know, we've thrown Southampton into the mix. You know, at the start of the season, you know, it didn't look like they were going to put together this kind of run, and they have done. And you know, it's definitely added something to it. You know, no question about it. And it makes it feel worse than what it probably actually is. You know, I think if you said at the start of the season would be on almost 2 points a game, I think we'd all took that. You know, knowing what it normally means here at this level. But I think the other thing to say as well is, I think to really get the depth in that we needed to get in, I think we had to go down the route Ipswich have gone down. Not that I'm saying we should have done that, but I think to do that, you've got to do what Ipswich have done. You obviously bring it in El Amadi from Wimbledon. You know, they've gone for a different strategy. They've gone for riskier kind of signings. Sarmiento as well. Sarmiento, sorry, from Brighton. They've gone for lesser known players, and just in the hope that they can adapt to this level. And yeah, I think that's the only way you can really get, you know, a lot of deals done, you know, in the situations that, you know, these 4 teams are in, because, you know, it's a lot easier getting an El Amadi in from, say, Wimbledon than it is trying to get someone on loan from Burnley or on loan from, you know, Sheffield United or someone like that, because they've still got that chance to play Premier League football. You know, El Amadi, realistically, he's not going to get right now a bigger move than the top end of the Championship. And, you know, it's whether we should have gone down that route, who knows? We'll see at the end of the season. But, you know, I think Ipswich are the only team out the 4, who've really gone about things a little bit differently, gone for lesser proven players. We'll see how it works for him. And obviously, I imagine Kiefer Moore as well. They've got as well. But again, Kiefer Moore, I don't think was even getting the slightest look in at Bournemouth. I don't think. I can't say I'm not going to talk for other Leeds fans. You know, all the Leeds fans in this chat, but I can't imagine the reaction if we just signed Kiefer Moore as being particularly positive. I can't imagine that being massively positive in terms of the reaction.
Yeah, I think it'd have been seen as a practical signing more than anything, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
You know, nothing that really lights the bonfires and sets the heart apace, really.
No, exactly that. And it's like the fact that it's like a similar, you know, in terms of it's not massively different to what Bamford can offer us in terms of Kiefer Moore. So, yeah, obviously a little bit more aerial presence in that lot, but I think Bamford's the far better player. But I don't know. I don't think there was a lot we could do in this window, you know, in terms of where we are. I just think it's almost a little bit like victims of our own success kind of thing. You know, the fact that we've got such a, you know, sort of structured starting 11. We've kind of had the same starting 11 all season, really, haven't we?
And that's what he was saying yesterday, wasn't it? His press conference. He seemed really comfortable in the moment about his squad. He didn't seem uncomfortable. You know, the questions that were coming in, quite a few about where we were going in this transfer window, and he just seemed completely relaxed about what he's got. You know, and actually, I believed him. I mean, we know sometimes we think that's a bit of a smokescreen, you know, and they're just trying to make it seem better to say that if they do fail, then, you know, da-di-da-di-da. But I actually feel that he's very, very happy with what he's got. And, you know, these players that are coming in, the 1 or 2, certainly the 1, maybe 2 that we might get in, really have to make the difference, because if they don't, he's not interested. And that's the only reason why he would want to take them anyway. It just seems to
I think the risk.
I
think the natural risk is going to be the left back. The natural sort of risk is going to be that side of it. But he's in a problematic state right now because Firpo's playing well. He's not been injured in about 6 or 7 weeks, which is a little bit of an anomaly from when he's normally injured every 2 weeks. Byram is that just rotation option at this moment in time, isn't he? We've heard that potentially might be injured again, but we know that with Sam, it's going to be pretty much all the time anyway. But it's a really tricky scenario because if you're to sell, once again, a left back, to another player, another club, even if it's on loan, it's to the club even more. I don't get how they'd be able to do that. It's a really, really tricky because they're going to say, look, Firpo's in, he's probably going to be starting, but it's up to you to be able to dislodge him. And that was the thing with Ryan Giles, wasn't it? Like they're not going to be able to sell it. Hence why Ryan Giles went, well, all right, I'll go to Hull then and play another 35 games.
Carvalho as well. Obviously went to whether we're ever in for Carvalho, I don't know, but he just never was ever going to get in ahead of Gigi Rutter. But that's the thing. I mean, listen, I know it's a bit of a thingy thing to say this, but if Ryan Giles has signed on the start of January and made the start to his Leeds career in terms of form and that lot of what Junior Firpo's been doing, what was it? Firpo's on 4 assists in his last 4 games or whatever it is. If Ryan Giles had made that start, would have been like, wow. And that's the trouble, for Giles is, if he was, say, signed, Junior Firpo puts in that performances, he can't get in the team. And that's the risk. You just don't want, I think if you're a player coming in on loan, you just don't want any risk, any slightest risk of playing time. You don't want any slight risk because it can blow up in your face so quickly. Because say if Giles had made the move, couldn't get in the team. I'm not saying Giles is a better left back than Firpo, by the way. I'm just saying that Daniel Farke, as soon as you've got yourself in that team and you're performing, Daniel Farke is going to stay loyal with you. You've seen it with Bamford, Firpo, Dan James. The list is endless. Yeah. So you look at it from Ryan Giles' point of view. The fact he's a new signing at Luton, he can't get in the team there. He then comes to Leeds, can't get in the team. All of a sudden after that, his career at Luton's probably finished, if we're being honest, in terms of next summer. So that's definitely part of the thinking. So it's a hard one, isn't it? It really is a tough one.
Yeah, I think based on what you're saying there, Oscar, as well, Firpo's been putting in some real performances, and I'll be honest with you, I can't stand him. I think he's a terrible footballer, but bizarrely, he's just been putting in over the last 4 or 5 games, which is great for us, and it's great for Farke as well. So there's an obvious vacancy at right spot there. We know Archer's been doing really well, but if you can bring Connor Robertson, who can play in that kind of position, which he quite obviously can, then that's just going to free up Archie for his true position in the centre of the park, and that's just solidifying us as we're going forwards towards the end of the season. So it's an obvious one that's going to benefit Roberts. I think he knows that he's going to get playing time at Leeds. Farke must have said that, I believe, and I think that's probably as far as it'll go because Firpo's got that left spot nailed down. We know he can get injured. That's going to be another worry. But let's just see. I think really in terms of the way that he's set up with his squad, this is about the only thing we can do. We know that Roberts will come and he'll probably fit straight in.
Is it enough? Do you think, Oscar? Do you think it's an? Are you satisfied with just a Connor Roberts addition this window? You've seen that the club have tried to get a centre back. They've almost failed. We've looked at from really reputable sources when it comes to Chris Mepham, Joe Worrall, Ben Godfrey, and obviously now we've seen Paul Dumm at Links, which would just be an atrocious signing. But overall, it's evident, isn't it, that the club want a centre back. So if they're not to get centre back, are you looking at this window and thinking just the Connor Roberts edition is enough?
I mean, what I'll say is I'm not that panicked about the centre backs because I think you've seen Ampadu come in and do a really good job. Obviously Pascal's come back. And Cooper and Creswell, I think, sort of backups at this level, I think are fine. I personally prefer Creswell to Cooper at this stage of his career, really. But, Daniel Farke's not, it doesn't feel like at this moment in time. Listen, what Farke said most recently in his press conference about Creswell sounded much more positive, but we'll see. We'll see in practice, if that happens. If, say, Ampadu's unavailable or Pascal are both unavailable, hopefully that doesn't happen. But if it did happen, it'll be interesting to see what would then happen with Creswell. So I'm not massively concerned on the centre-back side of things. I think, Rodon, Pascal, Ampadu, I think are more than fine, in terms of what they can do. And it has actually allowed us to get Gruev into the team and, all of a sudden the emergence of Gruev from that, really. Gruev would still be on the bench, had that not happened. So, we took the opportunity of that a little bit. My bigger concern is left back, I will be honest. I think left back, the situation we've got is, it felt like, it feels like one of those, if we had signed a left back, Firpo and Byram would have gone through the whole season without an injury. It feels like now we haven't signed a left back. Firpo's going to pick up a suspension somewhere along the way, or Byram's going to get suspended. It just feels like it's one of those. It felt like we're in a situation where it's like a 50-50. We could do it. and in theory, it could prove to be a masterstroke, bringing in a left back, or we couldn't sign a left back, and it ends up completely backfiring. It just feels like, I wouldn't so much say it's a you can't do right for doing wrong kind of thing, but it's one of those where it can kind of go either way a little bit. It could look really, really daft. If Firpo gets a suspension, listen, Firpo, as much as he is playing really well, we know he loves to tackle. We know he's got a tendency to get a booking. Byron the same, but not so much getting suspensions, but more picking up injuries from impacts. So, it's definitely a bit of a concern that, in terms of left back, that we've got to play. Listen, pound for pound, Byron I think's played really well when he's been on the pitch this season. I think he's done. He's certainly at the very least been fine. At the very, very least, he's been 7 out of 10. I'd argue he's probably been better than that. Firpo, I think since he's come back in since the turn of the year, I think he's been absolutely fine as well. I think he's probably on his best spell in the Leeds shirt. So I can see why we haven't done it. But it's a risk. There's no doubt about it. It's a risk. And I think Connor Roberts, the thing is that we know Archer can play that position now. We know he's kind of proven himself there. And we certainly know Connor Roberts can play there. He's got that championship experience. He's played a similar role for Burnley last season in a similar type of team. So it feels like we've kind of alleviated a lot more of the risk on that side of the pitch. But we'll see, won't we? But that is my concern. I'd probably say left back concerns me more than centre back. So I think centre back, we've got some fine options. It just feels like if Firpo and Byram were both unavailable at the same time, which is, it's not beyond the realms of possibility if we're being totally honest. I don't know what we'll do then.
Oscar, let's introduce someone else, someone who I have followed on TikTok for a long time now. Take Two Footy, whose takes are better than mine, 100%. Very measured Leeds fan, and I wanted to get him on for the transfer window as well. Oscar, it could be your first introduction to him. Dad, it'll definitely be your first introduction to him as well. But how you doing, mate? All good?
Hello. Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Good to be on.
Good man. Yeah, I'm a long-term viewer of your stuff, mate. It's great to have you on eventually. I've not even caught your name. Are you willing to, or do we call you Take Two?
No, it's weird. People keep coming up to me and going, "Oh, you're all right, Take Two." I'm like, "Well, that's not my full name." But now Sam it
This is going to check that.
Yeah, at least it's not Take That. Yeah, that's a good shout. Yeah, I get it down. I get it down at the One Leeds games. I think the One Leeds games, the Leeds games, and it's if people haven't watched, like they've not heard me speak before or see my Twitter handle or anything, they'll just be like, "Oh, it's One Leeds." It's like, yeah, it is. Yeah. That's not my name. It's not Chris and that, but yeah.
Someone came up to us in the Peacock and just went TikTok, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm from. I go on TikTok, but that's not my name. I do have a name as well."
How you doing, mate? Anyway, what's the general sort of take on the window then so far? Obviously, I've been catching your stuff on TikTok. Very informative, by the way. Everybody check it out, and his YouTube channel will be in the link in the description below. But overall, mate, what have you made of sort of the final day of the window? Are you satisfied with it?
Yeah. So I've been listening to you guys a little bit and reading a few of the comments and stuff, and I think my take might be quite different to a lot of Leeds fans in that the big thing for me with this transfer window, which I think is a success, is we're not losing anybody. We've built a squad that we have to be really happy with. They're doing a good job. If we win tomorrow, we're averaging 2 points a game. In any normal championship season, that would be pretty impressive. It's better than we've ever done in the championship before. And we've built a squad from, let's be honest, in the summer, we were in absolute tatters. Everyone was walking out the door. We've built a squad and we've kept that squad. I know, obviously, everyone wants new players in, and obviously I want to strengthen at fullback and things like that. But honestly, keeping some of those players for me was just top priority. And I know that's probably a little bit boring, but keeping hold of some of those players, I'm really happy with that. I think that's good business in itself, not losing any of them.
I think you're right, Sam. I think you're right. I think a lot of it, you don't really look at it like that, mate. And you sometimes you get drawn into this whole room mill stuff and the transfer sagas, and I think we all do. But someone said to me earlier on, they think Leeds fans have been really irrational in this window. And I was saying on an earlier stream, I was like, I don't think they actually have, because I think a lot of Leeds fans have been looking at it and thinking, and I think it helps with our run of form. Of course it does. But I think a lot of Leeds fans have been looking at it and thinking, well, do you know what? Like, the squad is good. If someone is to come in right now, they have to improve that side, which is going to be really, really difficult. And I do look at the blueprint overall and think maybe Leeds fans have been sort of, yeah, okay, you bring in 1, maybe 2 max. But if you're getting Leeds fans, I think, saying, well, let's bring in 4, let's bring in 5, it's a little bit irrational right now. And I think a Connor Roberts, out of like a Nico Williams, that sort of would make sense for me. But aside from that, I mean, what else do you do? I mean, it's funny, at the start of the window, I was calling on for a 9. I was like, Bamford's doing my head in. Get him out. Let's get a number 9 in. But then you see it with Bamford and he starts to progress a little bit. And then you start to think to yourself, well, it's a difficult one, isn't it? It really is. So,
yeah, I think.
Sorry, go on, mate. Go on.
I think there's a delay on mine. Every time I start speaking, you did, then it cracks up. You go, mate. You go.
No, I just think what you're saying is really important, actually, because I never really thought about it from that point of view. It's almost like a signing in itself, not losing anybody.
Yeah, it is.
I think we're all slightly worried, weren't we, not too long ago? We're all saying, it got to December and the way Somerville was on his run of form, everybody's thinking now there's definitely going to be a bid coming in for 20-25 million, maybe even more for him. The fact that there's been, I don't think, many murmurings about him in particular, and he's still here. That's a massive coup, and it really is. I think it's a really good point you make.
Yeah, one of the things that I do, like every week on TikTok, is I sit and watch the Farke press conference, and then I do a video after summarising the press conference. So obviously, I've sat through a lot of Farke press conferences and listened to him talk, and he's literally been telling us since early November that it's going to be a quiet January. It will be a quiet window. We aren't going to lose any key players. The focus is to keep the key players. If we can strengthen and he said it over and over again, if we can find the right players to come in terms of finances, attitude, what they bring to the team, whether they fit the group. He's been really big on like the group and the dynamic of the group. Yeah. And he's been saying that over and over again. And obviously I've listened to him say that every week, multiple times a week. So for me, I was prepared for that. But I do understand we always want new things, don't we? We want new players. We want shiny new toys. But it can't always happen. And trust me, I really want a fullback. I've been clamoring for a fullback for weeks and weeks. But we have to trust him at some point. And he's been quite consistent with it. He has been saying the same things for a long time. It's not like he's all of a sudden changed things up. He has been saying quiet January, the goal is to keep the bulk of the squad together, which he's done. So,
and I agree as well. I sort of came to peace with it all yesterday when I was watching that press conference as well. And you've been seeing way more of them than I have, but I actually thought about that. We all worry about it as fans, and we're all looking at strengthening here, strengthening there, not losing this player here, not losing in there. And at the end of the day, you just got to say, well, there's somebody in charge down there. He can take that pressure, and he seems to be very confident. He's been there a couple of times before with Norwich, but he seems to be really confident that what he's got is a good thing, and that we're going to be well placed at the end of the season to get promotion. So,
but Dad, it's more. I think
relax and accepts that we've got the right man in charge, and that he's going to get us up.
I think the overall thing as well is, I mean, the interesting comment here from Brad. If Rad's was still here, Somerville, Rutter, and Archie would have been sold. I think that there's definitely thought process on Archie there for a little bit of capital. But with Rad's, it was to always improve the overall structure of the club. But still, I think you are right. I think I keep saying this, and sometimes I get a little bit of flack for it because it's directed on Farke a little bit. But I think it's right. We all have objectives in life. We all have targets, KPIs, whatever it may be. But for me, behind the scenes, he's definitely been told this season, look, this is your objective, to be three of the sides that go back up to the Premier League. And if we look at that squad overall, I've said, look, depth-wise, and Sam, I don't know what you think about this, but I've said depth-wise, look, I think we need more bodies, but once we've mentioned several times before, the depth cell is really, really difficult. But overall, generally, this squad right now, if you weren't to make a single addition, is more than good enough to be promoted, even if it is a playoff win, more than good enough. I mean, you look at what we've done to Ipswich. Southampton, for me, was a little bit of a freak. But and Leicester, look, we are overall the third best team, or the second or third best team in the division. So I think that the target is still for Daniel Farke to be getting that promotion.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. I would agree that like the squad is good. I think I was listening to the Square Ball the other day, and it's something like we have scored like the third most goals in this league. We have the second least goals against and stuff like that. And when you actually do break it down, and like Farke says, averaging 2 points a game and all those things, we are doing a lot of things right. And he's said the same thing all season, that we need to. That's what we're working on, and I am expecting a little bit of something from this last bunch of games, because he has kind of been talking about it all matters in March and April. It feels like everything's been leading to something. And I feel like I've got a little bit of confidence in him when he says that as well. I don't know.
Yeah, it feels like we're built up ahead of steam, doesn't it? You could almost feel like this was the start of the Saints run, when they started to get those games coming together after a really bad start, and look at where they are now. And I've got to be honest, I've got that feeling with us. I really feel there's something starting to happen. There's no reason why over the next 4 or 5 games we really can't move on, and particularly tomorrow night, when we could be in a unique position come the end of that game for this season.
Well, I've always said that. Dad, you're the negative one, and I'm the positive one in our father-son relationship. So that's
really am.
But it's that chance, that psychological blow, isn't it? It's that big chance on Friday night. We have to take it. We have to take it up, because I think for maybe not so much Southampton, but certainly Ipswich. The fact that Ipswich have had such a terrible run since they played us, the fact they lost against, in the FA Cup, and you look at that, could that be their like Sutton United to what it was to us a few years back? Because we completely exploded in the league after that defeat. And I do genuinely think the same could happen to Ipswich. I hope it does. So yeah, it's definitely, from that point of view, it's massive. But this is Farke's time of the season, this stage of the season. When you come out of Christmas into the new year, he's done it twice at Norwich. This has been the period of the season where he's put that run together.
Do you know the funniest thing about it? Like how we talk about him is how just like the media and the press talk about Pep Guardiola. He gets to sort of January and then he pressed that accelerator and it begins. It's Farke in the Championship.
Inevitable, Daniel Farke at this point in the season. But no, it is definitely something in that. It does feel like he's starting to get the team a lot more settled, a lot more like what he wants. In terms of Firpo, he's got a natural left back there now. Gruev, he's got that midfielder. I think he's wanted all season, really. Someone who can, really progress the play. Really connects that left hand side together. Ampadu, I don't think it matters where Ampadu plays. He's consistently one of the top 3 players on the pitch, week in, week out.
Yeah.
Archie Gray right back, a little bit more conservative than Firpo. Dan James staying high up the pitch, etc., etc. And I just think we're seeing, as the season's gone on, the players we brought in over the summer, I think have got better and better. Gruev, I think, has got better and better by the game. I think Anthony, you start to see a little bit of it with Anthony as well. I think his best game in the Leeds shirt was on, Saturday against Plymouth.
It was brilliant, wasn't he? He was really good.
It was outstanding. I thought he was the best player on the pitch by a mile. I thought he was. It was the closest of seeing a winger get to Somerville's kind of presence, without being Somerville, on the pitch. In terms of how he was playing, he was just taking risks, looks a lot more confident. It looks a lot more like the Bournemouth version of Jayden Anthony at this kind of level. So that's definitely something to look out for as well. And maybe that's part of Farke's thinking, in terms of.
But as well, Oscar as well, it's bringing a bench option on for a cup game. Who can do that? Who can just shimmy beyond 2 players and put the ball in the sort of like bottom to mid corner like that, and just take 3 players out to get that. Having that off the bench it's so unique.
Yeah, exactly. It's the fact that it's just a different option, isn't it? I think one thing we have complained about a little bit this season is the lack of impacts off the bench, from our forward players. I think now you've got Perot there. Listen, Perot will always have his critics because of the type of player he is. He's one of those players that if he's not scoring, you are questioning, in terms of what his influence is on the pitch, and that's fair enough. But I do think, in those kind of games where he's coming on with sort of 10, 15 minutes to go, the game's a bit more stretched, he's a bit more all over the place, and you just need that cool head who gets a chance. Perot's your man. Jaden Anthony, I think the same. You know, as the game becomes a bit more stretched, I think all of a sudden you look at those two options off the bench, you know, even the starters potentially as well. You know, I think that's massive now, you know, in that kind of sense. And the midfield as well, you know, you've got 4 options there now, easy. You know, Gray, Gruev, Ampadu, Kamara. And we had the debate last week, you know, me and you kind of had that little argument about, you know, who would it be alongside Ampadu? Would it be Gruev or Kamara? And you were going mad at me for saying Gruev, but
it's not like me being in an argument.
Well, I think the one thing
that's the thing, though, isn't it? It's a debate.
Go on, Sam.
Yeah, without sounding like a Parker fanboy too much, but one thing that he has done, which a lot of the time goes unnoticed, is the way the squad's evolved over the season. Like there was a time where we were like, oh, we could just predict that starting 11, but then it's kind of naturally evolved. And also, he's got to have had some saying that with the way that Gruev's now coming into it, and Bamford and Firpo. Yes, we've had injuries, but I also think we've not had that many injuries compared to previous years. And I think they have monitored their training really well. And he's managed to, like you say, Oscar, with Peru maybe coming in with 15 minutes to go, stretching games, but especially towards the back end of the season when a lot of other teams are going to be fatigued and a lot of other teams are going to be maybe falling off. Hopefully our fitness levels and things like that are still pretty high. So we do have bringing in these options of experienced players under pressure coming on with 15 minutes left in a game where we really need a win. Hopefully that all plays out. I mean, it might blow up in our face, but I just feel like there's been something building through the entire season in that way, especially with Gruev. 100%. I mean, how many Leeds fans were saying he's never going to play for us again after that debut? Who is he? And now look at him. He's solid.
Yeah, but it's so many players that's been the case with, isn't it? You know, even look at, say, you know, Jaden Anthony, for example. You know, I think me and Connor last week were talking about with Gabe that, you know, Jaden Anthony was getting criticism last week, and you just saw, you know, the performance level, you know, get a lot closer to what he's been at Bournemouth, and Junior Firpo as well to an extent. You know, in terms of, you know, a lot of players over the season have just continued to prove us wrong. Glenn Kamara, you know, I think we forget.
Yeah.
You know, when he first signed, he wasn't seen as the most exciting signing, but it just feels like Daniel Farke always seems to get proven right. You know, maybe not straight away, but in time, he always sees Bamford going up front. You know, I think the panic on Twitter when that first Bamford over Perot call was made was massive. And listen, I'm not going to deny it. I was a bit like, ooh, that's a big call out of Daniel Farke. You know, that could be one that, you know, gets looked back on, you know, if we don't win the game. But, you know, Farke will make the big calls, and that's the good thing about him. And it feels like this season is a reverse of that first Bielsa season. It feels like we're finishing strong rather than starting strong. And I think it's always better. It's always about how you finish a season rather than how you start one. And do you not think as well with Ipswich? You know, I think Ipswich are the team I look at and think they're the most physical and high energy.
You've been saying this about Ipswich for a good. You've been saying this about Ipswich for a good 3 months.
Any Ipswich shot point is because they're tired. That's it. That's it, boys. Ipswich shot points is because they're tired, and I won't hear anything else because that's what I've been saying since October.
Yeah. I think they've made some good additions, to be honest, Ipswich. Obviously, the Wimbledon signing, Kiefer Moore, I think is going to be a good signing for him. I don't mind that. As Sarmiento's a decent addition. Obviously, we've got a Blackburn captain as well. But once again, I still look at those additions, and you still look at the Leeds squad, and you go, it's still not. It's not a patch. It's still not. For me.
Out, Connor.
Really
it's
not.
Blackburn. It's someone from Blackburn. Someone who's never getting near the team at Brighton, and someone from Wimbledon. You know, it's not comparing to, you know, if we'd have done I do genuinely think if we'd have made those signings, I think it wouldn't have been a great reaction. I don't think we could have made those signings. So what?
I don't know. The fan base, it's a shiny new toy, mate. I think it would be a good reaction.
I don't think
they just wanted anybody
would have gone down well.
Yeah, I agree.
I think he's good. I think he's a really good player, by the way. But I don't know.
If Lewis Travis had come in, there'd have been compilations of him tackling and everything, and it'd have been the greatest signing since David Batty. It'd have been a brilliant signing. But yeah, I mean, how are we looking on the game tomorrow anyway, Sam? Are we thinking that, to be honest, I don't actually know if not Rodon, sorry, I don't know if all the Welsh contingent are just fallen into one now, aren't they? I don't know if Roberts, even if he signed, I don't know if he'll be eligible, to be honest with you.
I think it'd be Tuesday for
yeah.
But I think for tomorrow, I was so relieved when I watched the presser yesterday and he said Archie Gray is back in full training. He's absolutely sound, and Somerville is the same. So really pleased to have them back in, because without Somerville and Dan James, things do drop off quite a bit. I know Anthony played well last weekend, but Nonto, obviously, it's all over the place at the moment with him, isn't it? So I'm really pleased that Somerville's back in, Archie's fit. But yeah, I mean, I'm feeling pretty positive ahead of tomorrow, to be honest. There's no real reason that we can't go away to Bristol, who are 13th in the league. Like, obviously, got to put respect on them. Like they're another team that can cause us problems, but we should get the win. Like, and it can't. Every game.
Sam, there's no excuses for tomorrow, is there? We've got to be going there and winning.
Yeah, we've got a fit and healthy squad minus Dan James and Strouk. We're good to go. There's no excuse, really.
Yeah. We've also got a very good record down at Bristol as well when you look at it over the past years. So, I know you can't. It's always different, isn't it, with different teams? But there's no reason why we can't go down there and get a result. I fully expect us to do that.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, let's get into a couple of comments. Sat in the City end tomorrow night nervous. People have got to stop doing this. You've got to stop sitting in home ends, everyone. It's a risk. It really is a risk. I've heard some bad stories. I think we saw some bad stories, Wolves and West Bromwich Albion as well. You've got to stop doing that. But shout out to Luke if you can only get to the game, but I'm all right with it being on the TV. Allegiant Eclipse says, great meeting you at the Plymouth game, Oscar.
Shout out Ross. Yeah,
Oscar doesn't go to games, so that's a bit weird. Ryan says the players that Ipswich and Southampton have do not get into our starting 11. A few debate. Maybe I don't know if I'd maybe look.
Was that?
I don't know if that was that the new signings have signed yet. Yeah, to be fair.
That's that outrageous, to be honest with you. I don't think they all get. I don't want to say many of them do get in. I genuinely don't think. I think they're all good players, but I don't think any of them really certainly
new signing. Yeah, new signings wise, probably not. To be fair, I thought he was mentioning.
Ipswich have got players. I mean, Leif Davis, I think, was getting out in our team, and they've got some good players and that lot. But yeah, I don't think it's that controversial.
Ryan Manning, maybe, but obviously that was a previous signing, wasn't it? But maybe potentially.
Yeah. He bottled it coming to Leeds.
Over the last 6 games, Ipswich are 14th in form. Yeah, Sam, are you? What? I guess the first question is A, do Leeds get automatics, and B, if they do, sort of, how do you think the playoff complexion sort of ends? Do you think it's going to be sort of obviously a Leeds Leicester, and then obviously do you think it's Southampton Ipswich are going to fall out? Do you think Leeds will make the playoffs? How do you think it's going to sort of turn out at the end of the season?
So I've been pretty consistent on this the entire season, although people get very, very angry at me for this. I had Leeds down for top 4 from the start of the season. I never at any point, as much as it pains me to say, thought Leeds were nailed on for automatic promotion. And a lot of people thought we were entitled to that. And I just didn't see where that was coming from after the summer we had and the start to the season we had. I didn't think that we were going to do it. Not that I didn't want us to do it. Obviously, I want us to do it, and I think we can. But I've been saying since probably November, doesn't matter about Ipswich, Southampton are the team we need to be careful of. And yes, we still need to worry about Ipswich to a certain extent, but realistically, Southampton are the team that are on form. They're on this ridiculous run. Yes, they had that little bit of form where they didn't get a win and they were saying get Martin out and all that stuff. But since then, they've just been chipping away, and that's the team we need to worry about. I think we can still get second. I hope it doesn't come down to that last game of the season, because I don't think my heart can handle it. In terms of the playoffs, I would confidently back Leeds in the playoffs to beat any of those other clubs. The only thing that stops me saying it is because of Leeds' history in the playoffs. But I mean, we can't. How much can we really take from what's happened in the past into what's going to happen this season? But I would back us to beat all of those teams in the playoffs. Why wouldn't we? We could beat anyone in this league on any given day. We've proven it already. We beat Leicester. We beat Ipswich twice. I would be fairly confident, but part of me is always well, it's Leeds, isn't it? It's Leeds.
Do you know what it is, Sam, as well? I think the big thing was I went to in the Bielsa season, and the caveat is obviously the fact that we had a much worse side there. Bielsa was propping these elite, getting them 2 elite championship players. But I went to every single derby game, and I remember going into that playoff game, the second leg, and I was so confident, braggadocious almost, that we were going to just blow them away, especially when we went 1-0 up. But you with Leeds, there is just always that thing in the back of your head. But I think the big thing for me and my dad have spoken about it as well. Just that squad is so good at the minute, and you've blown sort of 8 goals past the team that are probably going to face you in the final at some point. You've got to look at it and think to yourself, well, we're going to be good. We're going to be good. Going into that sort of like final spell, I think.
Yeah, I think so. It's not even that far away, really. If you think about it, if like it's 3 months away, our squads I still feel like we're getting better. I feel like we are still with the strength. I know we don't have the numbers, maybe the amount of players that we would like to have, and we do like a couple of injuries, and we do lose a little bit of cover. But I mean, Jamie Shackleton coming in at cover, it's not a disaster, is it? Like sometimes when you think about it, it's not an ideal world, but like, we have got players who can step in there and they can do it. And there's a lot of players that are still improving as the season goes on. So there's nothing to say that we won't have the momentum if we were to end up in the playoffs going forward. It's not like we'd be dropping off. We've still been chipping away those points gaps. We've got that momentum behind us, I think, compared to an Ipswich, say.
It's one of those, though. It's Leeds United in the playoffs. It's like it's just something about like
That's what it always comes back to, doesn't it? You can say anything you want.
It's the Doncaster one for me. It's that Doncaster game. The fact that we did the hard work in the semi-final against Carlisle, and I thought, no chance we're messing this up. And I remember going as 11. So 11, yeah, I think it was about 11 then. You went
to Carlisle away.
Yeah, when Carlisle away.
Then, wow, special.
That's one of the best ever away. That and Preston away in the playoffs 2 years before that.
Eddie Lewis.
Unbelievable, yeah. Eddie Lewis. Fraser Richardson, I think, got the second. I can't remember anyway.
Yeah, he did.
But that Carlisle going to Doncaster, because I just remember the curse of that Watford game and thinking, it's not happening again, this. Minus 15 points. We're on a roll. Gary McAllister in charge. He's going to lead us to glory at Wembley. Yorkshire derby, no problem at all. 90% of the ground is Leeds. I think there's about 5,000 Doncaster fans in the whole ground that day. Nothing against Doncaster. Well, they have actually from that game, but there was not many Doncaster fans in that ground at all. And then,
I think that was, people always earmark Sutton and Newport County and things and Histon and things like this. I hit that Doncaster final. When we lost, is that? Yeah, I think it was, Sam. I think that's the point where you go, I might stay at home for 4 or 5 days here. I might not leave. I don't think I'm not just going to mention anything anymore. It's just
if it was that or the Millwall semi-final a year later. When I always remember Becchio's goal. I've never heard a noise at Ellen Road like it when Becchio that goal went in. But Jimmy Abdu when he's left free on the corner, that was a bad one as well. But it just feels like that with the playoffs. It just feels psychological more than anything. But records are there to be broken, aren't they, boys? At the end of the day, we'll see. We'll see.
But at some point.
Let's get top 2. Let's just get top 2 and let Sampson and Ipswich worry about that.
Well, I think Leeds winning the league as well, the championship, we all looked at and thought, you generally look at Leeds winning the championship and you think, well, it's just not going to happen. We'll be second and we'll claw on to second place and we'll get up, but we'll somehow get up, even if we've got a brilliant team. But us just bashing the league that year was one of those sort of records that were there to be broken. And this side haven't got that sort of level of they've not had experienced that really before when it comes to the playoffs and stuff like that, so you're hoping they can just pull through with it. But I'll tell you what, lads, let's leave it there. It's been an absolute pleasure. Sam, thank you so much, mate. Really appreciate you bobbing on.
Thank you for having me.
Really appreciate that, mate. Head on over to Sam's YouTube channel. I'll bob it in the section below after this. Make sure you subscribe to some fantastic vlogging content. Me and Sam at some point, it could be tonight, might not be, who knows, but we'll see what happens. But we could be doing a bit of TikTok content as well. Me getting on the TikTok hype. Can you believe it? Oscar, my man, thank you so much for joining, mate. And
no problem at all, mate. No problem.
Really appreciate that. And let's hope we can get maybe a second one. A second one would be nice. I don't know who it will be.
3 or 4 in, mate.
You just want more and more and more, don't you?
I want 1 hour.
Everything that we've been speaking on in this chat about has been rational and not needing 9 signings. You want 9 signings, don't you, scumbag?
You got to go. Haven't you? You got to pull up or shut up, haven't you? At the end of the day.
That's it. Yeah. But guys, thank you so much. Make sure you like the stream, and we'll see you in a bit. Cheers.
Cheers, boys.